Libby. So I've produced over 100, directed about 20, 25 now. And this project, I connected with you immediately. This family is great, and the passion they have for his dad to get in. We talk about, and for people historians, obviously there's Jackie Robinson, Dobie, Satchel Paige, but your dad was really a pioneer. That's the thing that blows me away about the story. What have you learned about that with your dad going through a lot of stuff in Little Rock and in Philly?
I've always said I don't know how he did Little Rock. I have no clue how he did Little Rock.
And for reference, as we talk about in the trailer, and we get into it in the film, Dick was the first ever African American to play in Little Rock for the Travelers. And the city of Little Rock, which we get into in the film, actually used Dick Allen to be the inspiration for integration. And Dick didn't know that at the time. And so there was a lot of, think about the pressure of hitting the ball, and then the pressure of having to integrate a city that was very divided in the civil rights era. So, I mean, what have you thought about that now you've had a chance? We went down to Little Rock together.
We did. Again, it's one of those things where, as young as he was, to coming from a small town where there weren't any Jim Crow laws and you're just being thrown right into it. It's I learned it. He was already a strong-minded person, but I believe it made him that much stronger, and obviously it helped him.
I always connect with people that are very connectable. And boy, was that a bad line? But anyways, boy, I did teach tomorrow at University of New Haven. I'm like, don't ever say this in a public forum. But anyways, the one thing I love about your dad is he's just a simple man, blue collar from Wampum, Pennsylvania. Talk about that for people and what that meant. For people who don't know, Wampum's this little town just outside of in between Youngstown and Pittsburgh. And in his later years, he still went there quite a bit. Actually, he lived there half the season. Mm-hmm. Talk about that. Talk about his love for Wampum, Pennsylvania.
It's funny because it's such a small town and everybody knows everyone. After his career, a trip for him was to go to the post office. You know everyone by name. I mean, he would even say to me, say I'd be in Florida, he's like, we had the new P.O. box because they didn't have an actual mailbox. So everyone had to go to the post office. Said, oh, tell John it's you, and you'll mail him a check, and everything was a handshake deal. And he grew up that way. It was just a handshake deal, small town. It still is. Everyone's still like that. And he was, was just thrown into something that he wasn't familiar with. But he always remained a humble person.
So when we went to Cooperstown, the one thing that I came away with, we interviewed a bunch of former players. Burble, I love him. We interviewed, and he talked about how he was this toughest hitter, and how he had a couple experiences with him. But the one that, for people who don't know, Jason Stark was there too. And Jason's a famous Hall of Fame writer, also works for The Athletic now. And he grew up in Philly. And he gave his passionate interview. He goes, the reason why I'm a sports writer is because of Dick Allen. I really became a fan because of that. You lived there. Mm-hmm. How could you feel your dad's special aura? I mean, he was a huge rock star in Philly, both times.
Yes, the second time, even more so. I get it now, but at the time when it was happening, I didn't think so. I didn't feel that aura. And now it's even more after he's accomplished what he's accomplished. Like I said, in Cooperstown, I had someone give me the shirt off of their back, only because I said, nice shirt. And he's like, you want it? I said, no. He said, here, it's yours. So, yeah, he's well received in Philly now.
He is, and what makes, I think, this story great is he overcame a lot. He was a simple man who lived in that era of, you hit the baseball very hard. Mm-hmm. After work, you might have a cold beer, mm-hmm. and there's a famous shot of Dick we put in the film where he's juggling baseballs and he's smoking a cigarette. I think but that represented that era, and that's why I think makes that story and makes the story so charming. When you look back at it now and you look at that journey, you guys struggled very hard to get your dad in the Hall. What was that like? I mean, I was with you, but tell the crowd, what was that like in Dallas? For people who don't know, he fell short multiple times by one vote. And when we got called back to Dallas, even I was like, oh my God, are we gonna do this again? It's like the last time I was there, like I felt so bad for you and your family. Talk about that moment in Dallas when you finally got in.
Dallas. Well, the whole thing started in 2014. It was like slap in the face, and then the second time was like a kick in the stomach, and then Dallas was like the finish line. It was just a sigh of relief and taking it all in, and it was like a stun gun went off. I'm sitting there like, I can't believe this is actually happening. I'm still feeling that way.
When you look back at it, we talked to Ferguson Jenkins, who compared your dad to Hank Aaron and many greats like that. We've been talking to a lot of people who are on that level. What do you remember about your dad behind the scenes that people may not know?
Oh, you know what? He always gravitated towards the younger players. Mm-hmm. He was always trying to teach. He was always Goose Gossage. I mean, he just goes on and on. He's like, I learned so much from him, and my father would call it skull practice, and it was always he was always in the young players' minds and in their heads and teaching them a lesson. There's one that came to my mind where he would always sit at the end of the dugout, and that was his office to let the players know he could always come and talk to me. Well, he said there was one player that struck out, took the bat, started beating the water cooler, and he waited until he finished, and he calmly told him he should have used that energy to hit the baseball. So that's the kind of guy he was.
In this film, you're going to see Mickey Rivers. Mickey really credited a lot. Dick, he reached out to your dad. Willie Randolph was a young player at the time. He reached out to your dad to talk and get some advice. And today we interviewed Wilbur Wood, who's a famous pitcher back in the day for the White Sox, especially. And I thought Wilbur gave a great line today in the interview. He said, Dick told me, and for people who don't know Dick's career, in '72, Dick Allen got traded from the Dodgers to Chicago, and the White Sox were on the threat of moving. They were having poor attendance, and the GM and many other people credited after that year he won MVP that he saved the White Sox from moving, and a lot of people felt like the deal was on the table, especially to New Orleans or Milwaukee, and that really saved the season, saved everything. So again, a lot of pressure for a guy who probably didn't know what he's walking into. And what's amazing is during this Wilbur Wood interview, when Wilbur confirmed the things we've been hearing, Wilbur said, he came up to me one time and goes, I don't like hitting the ball up the middle. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why? He goes, because he was afraid he was going to hurt somebody. Think about today's game. A guy who's that powerful wins MVP goes, I don't want to hit it the middle. I don't want to hurt the pitcher. I want to line drive at the middle. That was your dad.
Yeah. Goose would say, he had said to me, he said it's unbelievable how he could call his shot. So I could see that if he wanted to hit it up the middle, he could have hit it up the middle, but he chose not to. Yeah.
I guess to wrap up, what do you hope as we make this film and we're getting down to the process here? What do you hope people take away from this, and what do you hope you take away from your dad?
The image that just followed him his whole career as an angry player, an angry person, to actually see who he actually was. I mean, anyone that ever probably had something negative to say never actually met him. I can say that with confidence. So.
Really, it was unfairly misrepresented. So it's called My Father Dick Allen. Hopefully a year from now we'll be talking about it here at the Boston Film Festival and talking about the great process. Thank you so much, Richard Allen Jr., for being a part of this process with me. So now we're about ready to go to another pioneer, Chichi Rodriguez, in this wonderful film done by some wonderful filmmakers. I hope you guys enjoy it just as much as I did watching it.